So let me ask you, how do you, the whole Kiss phenomenon, which it was, how did you get that started? What was it that?
Scientists talk about this kind of a thing, and there is such a thing as singularity. Things just happen. And that means that it doesn't happen often. Just every once in a while, that could be a millennia, or something just happens when the planets align. You have the right thing at the right place and the right time. The first right thing in the right place and the right time was when I met Paul Stanley, my partner, who knew stuff I didn't know, and hopefully, at least he told me, I knew stuff he didn't know. And then 1 + 1 = 3. And then we decided to put together the band we never saw on stage. And it's worth noting, we looked at it visually. We wanted to get the songs and everything, but we noticed that the bands we liked, The Who and Jimi Hendrix and, the Beatles, had unique visuals so that, if you closed your eyes, you saw it. And there were lots of hits on the radio where if you closed your eyes, you couldn't tell. Foreigner was a very good band, had a lot of hits. You close your eyes, you have no idea who's in the band, and you don't care.
Right.
And predominantly, that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted the visuals to be part of it, and we didn't know that it would become a multi-billion-dollar industry. Everything, Kiss continues to be. Everything from Kiss caskets and Kiss condoms will get you coming and we'll get you going. See, that was a joke.
Yeah.
See, you catch that?
I got it. I'm sure everybody else will get it too.
I've said that many times before, but it's actually true, literally. So once we got Ace and Peter, the two original guys, and it's worth noting, Paul and I went to see Peter play in a gentleman's club, very small, but where they went. And they played in a trio, and the drummer wore, Peter Criss, had scarves on, and he was singing Wilson Pickett, R&B songs, and he had the right voice and the vibe. The rest of the guys on stage, could have been the guys that would wait for you outside to pick up a few bucks. They didn't look like musicians, but this guy, So that was pardon?
He stood out big time.
Yeah, and he had the voice and the attitude. So the band started, but not everybody has the genes. Not everybody can run a marathon. There are some people whose genes, whose DNA, are more akin to running a short race, just full, which is why very few bands last a long time. The Beatles lasted 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Shockingly. We've been around 52 years with different members and all that because not everybody lasts. And one day, and I've talked about this before, and every time I talk about it, I get the imagery again. We're sitting around in our rat-infested loft, 10 East 23rd Street, and we'd been rehearsing. It's a rat trap and a fire trap. No windows, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And after the rehearsal, one of us, I don't know who, said, hey, let's go down to Woolworth's, which was a local store. You could buy anything.
Yeah, I remember Woolworth's, yeah. They're gone now, but...
Gone.
Yeah.
Before there were malls, you stick everything into Woolworth's.
Everything.
Aspirin,
Everything.
Anything, clothing. And there were also gimmicky things. You could buy plastic ice cubes with flies in it so that you can stick it in your drinks and the girls would flip it.
Yeah, I remember. Right? I remember that.
And whoopee cushions.
Yeah,
whoopee cushions. If you're 14, you have no idea what a whoopee cushion is. Everybody bought. You put it under a girl thing. So,
sits down. Yeah.
And that was a big thrill. You should buy your wife one of those. Is she out there? And so we somehow veered towards the Halloween area, and there was clown makeup. Stein's Clown White, a jar, and Stein's black lipstick. For some reason, Paul Stanley went to the red lipstick thing. I don't know why. And we just bought the stuff, and we bought 2 mirrors that were 4.5 feet tall, about this wide, $15 all in, and brought it up to the loft. And nobody said, I have an idea, let's sit down, we'll do this. We just started like if you'd look at it, you'd say, okay, who's telling you what to do? No, it's just happening. We're looking in the mirror, putting on makeup and looking at each other and stuff like that, and just talking. Well, it's kind of weird. It's kind of sticky talking about the feeling of it. And then we started drawing designs around the eyes and looking at each other and stuff and getting off on it kind of as it was happening. And Peter Criss liked cats, which so that's he was doing that. I was always fascinated by horror movies and sci-fi, that imagery. And Ace always talked about that he's from another planet and stuff. His equilibrium was not all that good, so he would often fall or whatever. So he thought of himself as a spaceman. And Paul Stanley, originally the makeup was a round circle or black around his eye. And we looked around and go, what the hell is that? And he says, it's like Pete, the dog from The Little Rascals. You ever see it?
Yeah, of course.
There was a dog in an old black and white half-hour thing that went back to Max Sennett comedies. The beginning of movies, they'd have these short, about kids in poor areas. And by the way, it was not segregated. They had black kids and white kids hanging out together like friends.
Buckwheat, remember?
Stymie.
Buckwheat and Stymie.
Yeah, but in regular civil, no, black and white is supposed to be separate. Not with our gang. They were just black and white friends. Buckwheat and Stymie, yeah. Great names.
Yeah.
And the dog was part of it, and he'd have a black circle. And we went, nobody's going to know that. If they're younger, they're not going to. So he decided to do, and I think it might have been Ace who said, you always wanted to be a rock and roll star instead of a pudgy Jewish kid. Why don't you put stars over your eyes? So he did. So he did 2 stars over his eyes, but they didn't align. It's difficult to do that freehand. So he decided just to use 1. And that's where his makeup came from. Just 1 star over the eye, and that was it. And between that first application of the makeup to about 3 weeks later, I called up a local, I was acting like a manager, I always do, called up a local club, the Coventry, and convinced them to book us sight unseen or anything else for $35. $35? Wow. And I remember there may have been 10 or 15 people there. My girlfriend at the time, a girl named Jan, her brother's girlfriend, Lydia, the drummer's wife, and a few others, and that was it. But we were on stage in makeup, like getting off of, there was something going on. And within a year and a half of the band forming, end of 1973, we were headlining Anaheim Stadium before MTV, before digital, before phone. We didn't even have hit records. Something happened. It just pervaded culture. All of a sudden, young kids started talking about this. And in those days, you could make a career from magazines because that's how things spread before Wi-Fi or anything.
So the whole makeup was not planned. It was just on a whim.
Yeah.
You go to Woolworths, start searching around, looking at, all of this. You bring it back, and all of a sudden
we had no manager.
Amazing.
We had no. Paul and I had a record contract from before with Epic for a band called Wicked Lester, and we finished the album. We got 40, 50 grand, whatever. And for us, that was a lot of money. And for some strange reason, we didn't believe it. It sounded like Three Dog Night and Doobie Brothers. It was okay, but nothing special. And hindsight's 2020. We must have been out of our minds to look a gift horse in the mouth. This is not it, is it? No, it's really not. And we literally fired the other 3 guys and went back to square one and decided to get new guys and write different kinds of songs, more English, more Humble Pie, Stones, that kind of thing, instead of American pop. And right away, it clicked. It's in a very strange way. Kiss became a very big band without hit songs.
So you think it was the makeup that really contributed in
It
a
was
big
about
way?
It was about the live shows, and if people are curious, if you go to YouTube, we would literally blow away any of the opening acts. I'm sorry, we were the opening act. Any act that dared put us on stage, we just blow them off the stage. Some of it was smart. We had a Kiss logo that was about 6 or 7 feet tall. These bright lights that spelled out Kiss.
I remember that.
So that, yeah, and nobody hung their name, the band's name above them like a Las Vegas show.
Right.
That was not considered cool, but we thought it was cool. So that when the next band came on, after we were off a half hour later, if you closed your eyes, you could still see Kiss in your eyelids, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And we didn't, they didn't have enough time to clear the stage and lower so while they were on, the Kiss logo was still on stage. And those kinds of tricks. And very quickly we ran out of bands to open up for. They wouldn't take us on. In fact, we opened up for a band in LA called, what were they called? And a hit song called Run, Run, Run. Jojo Gunn. And they had one hit song, good song. And then when we got to New York, they were opening for us. In fact, we booked our own show at the Beacon Theater, and the promoter was not thrilled about it. We said, we'll guarantee people are going to show up. Well, we had to do a second show the same day because they both sold out, but the hall wasn't available. This is the thing about America, of the people, for the people, by the people. You know, there are hit makers and there are producers and stuff that determine what becomes a hit. And then there's something called groundswell. It just happens because the people want it. There was a guy I used to know at Geffen Records named Ed Rosenblatt, and they picked up a local band called Nirvana. It started to make a little noise, but it was suspicious because no hit songs, no everything. They just looked like bums and loud, boisterous music. But he noticed it was happening, and he had a meeting with the rest of the crew in the office, said, if I hear any one of you ever call a radio station or a newspaper about Nirvana, I'm going to fire you. In other words, don't stand in the way of this integrity, honesty thing that becomes from the people so that they don't feel manipulated. Because marketing means manipulation.
Right.
So that you keep the honesty and the integrity of something, that it's the people who decide. That's what happened with Kiss.
Wow.